Many industrial workplaces have vehicles. You have people moving around, you have vehicles moving around, and therefore it's a common hazard to put on your NG2 project or your NEBOSH IG2 project. So there are some mistakes that we want to avoid with this, so let's take a look at what you need to do. Firstly, let's look at the hazard categories. Make sure that this is the right hazard category. So if you have vehicles moving around in the workplace, it's going to be a movement of people and vehicles in the workplace category. A common mistake is to use this one, work equipment and machinery. And I know why. You might think a vehicle is work equipment, which it is. But that hazard category there, work equipment and machinery, that focuses on mechanical hazards and guarding, fixed guards, interlocked guards, cutting, shearing, entrapment, all that kind of stuff. So we don't want to use that for what is a vehicle movement type hazard. So that's the first thing. So let's type in movement of people and vehicles in the workplace. And provided you don't make that mistake, then it's pretty straightforward at this point. What you do need to say though, you do need to specify what the vehicle is. So don't say vehicles, like is it a truck? Is it a forklift? Is it a crane, golf cart, quad bike, tractor? Like, tell us what the vehicle is. So we could say use of tractors to pull caravans around the site in close proximity to staff and campers. Okay, we've got a clear hazard there. We've got a vehicle, we've got the vehicle task, and we are pointing out what's dangerous about this. It's not just a vehicle by itself, but there are members of the public, customers, campers. Like these are like people with tents and caravans and things. They are walking around as well, and including children, perhaps, if it's a campsite. In the who might be harmed and how, we need to talk about the who, and the who's going to be everyone who's kind of in proximity to these vehicles. Don't just say everyone though. Give us some examples. Campsite staff and customers, including children, could be struck by a moving vehicle, leading to a possible fatality. You could, if you wanted to, also talk about the possibility of colliding with infrastructure, like maybe a gas tank or a wall or something else. Vehicles could also collide with sensitive infrastructure, such as the toilet block wall, causing a collapse. Now then, at this point, we need to fill in the next two columns. What are we doing? What more do we need to do? And here again, we need to bring ourselves into legal compliance. So let's check the laws, let's check any ACOPS guidance documents, just common standards, and let's do everything we reasonably can. Remember to try to use the hierarchy of control. So we are not going to just fix this problem with walkways and signage and high visibility jackets. No, we want to try to engineer things if we can. So if you look at the standards for vehicles, we try to have separate roads for vehicles and separate walkways for pedestrians. So we segregate people. We try to physically separate them with the use of barriers or walls, at the very least a curb. If you want to protect infrastructure, you could use physical posts or barriers so that the vehicle hits the post rather than hits the sensitive infrastructure. Go back to your course materials. There's a load of stuff on safe site, safe vehicle, safe person, safe driver, and look at all of the different measures that are required. That would include things like the signage, the training, the maintenance, mirrors on blind corners, one-way systems. There's quite a lot that you can do in order to keep people safe. Now, in terms of the legislation, well, it depends. If you're a national student or an international student, you have different legislation to use. People studying the NEBOSH NGC, the national, they should use the Workplace Health, Safety and Welfare Regulations, this one right here. And we have, if we scroll down, it's not obvious, but we have something here, Regulation 17, the Organisation of Traffic Routes. And so this talks about workplaces being organised in such a way that pedestrians and vehicles can circulate in a safe manner. It talks about the traffic routes should be sufficient in number, suitable positions, suitable size, or vehicles should be able to use a traffic route without causing a danger. There should be separation between people. You also want to have separation when it comes to doors and gates, and really, if you look at the standards, pedestrians and vehicles should not be using the same doors and gates to get in and out. And there's another piece of legislation you can use. You could use pure, the provision and use of work equipment regulations. So because a vehicle is work equipment. And specifically, if we scroll down here, we have mobile work equipment. And it talks about employees being carried on it or the rolling over of it. So if we look at this one here, the employees carried, it talks about the suitability for carrying people and features to reduce the risk of people going under the wheels or the tracks. Depending on what your action is in your Part 3 legal arguments, that may be useful to you. International students studying NEBOSH IGC, well, I'd love to use the ILO Safety and Health in the Use of Machinery Code of Practice. Let's take a look at that. Very, very long document, 154 pages of duties. So if we go right down here, because most of this is not vehicle related, but if we go right down here, we should see machinery presenting hazards due to its mobility, such as vehicles. Vehicles, right, 81. So let's do a search for 81. And so it talks about suitability, training, competence, segregated from people who are on foot, warnings, safe access routes, loads more. Depending on what your action is, you could use one of those duties. Let me give you a key mistake that I would like you to avoid with all of this, and that is also another hazard category confusion. I do not want you to use work-related driving for this. Work-related driving, we'll talk about that in another tutorial. That is driving on the public road, whereas this hazard category, this is in the workplace. In the workplace, there's a clue there, isn't there? In the workplace. Anyway, hope you found that super useful. I'll see you in the next tutorial.